What's a red flag people often ignore because it looks so sweet? When someone wants to spend all their time with you and gets upset when you hang out with others. It looks romantic at first, but it's actually possessiveness. Dear God. I used to be like this when I experienced loving someone for the first time. Skull. Most of us have. It's okay. It's part of growing up and emotional management to learn not to be that way. I mean, at least you realized it and changed. Some people it's the only way they can be in a relationship. This applies to friendships as well. My ex-best friend and I would meet up like 1 to 2 times a week cause we live near to each other. I was her pseudo-counselor for years. Then one day we got into a fight cause I told her we need a rain check cause I'm meeting my family or other friend group that weekend. Completely opened my eyes to how codependent and negative she was getting, lashing out at me for bailing on her when we practically meet once a week and it was her versus my freaking family. Cute animal videos that are actually stressing that animal right the hell out. Like those ones where a parent watches their kid ragdoll the cat. Horrible. I'm amazed at the level of self-control my cats have when my 1-year-old son tries to play with them. They very much understand that he's our son and that they shouldn't hurt him. But whenever we notice that he gets near them, we immediately move him to somewhere else in the room. When they get food, we put him in the chair. I think that there are many animals, especially mammals, that understand the notion of a child and that the behavior cannot be the same as with an adult. Okay, that's a bit off topic though. I agree, my cats will both be extra chilled and laid down for pets when the neighbor's kids want to pet them, even if it's a 1-year-old baby that doesn't know how to pet. If an adult tries the same, they will just run away. It's a huge issue with hamster videos because people already treat them as toys rather than living, breathing creatures that are capable of feeling fear and pain. This is what I was going to say. We watch a few minutes of YouTube with our preschoolers sometimes. She really loves marble runs. We found one of these hamster videos and at first we thought it was cute and she was laughing about the hamster climbing, going through Mario tunnels, breaking down walls. Well then they had the poor thing fall into a pool of water and it was struggling to get out. We turned it off and explained to her the hamster was scared and not safe. We shouldn't watch people be mean to their family like that. Also, the videos where the animal is crying because they felt touched by the human's action. No, they just have an infection in the eye. To add to this, people who try to hold cats while it's clear the cat wants to be let go. At the slightest sign of struggle, I put them down immediately. Videos of people comforting a dying wild animal. I saw one where a woman found a dying fox beside the road and sat with it and petted it until it passed. That animal died in 1000x more fear than it needed to because a much larger animal that it feared kept touching it for its last hour when it was too weak to get away, and probably caused it a lot of pain too by getting it despite not knowing if / where it was injured. It was laying by the roadside in broad daylight, so obviously not seeking human interference. Just too weak by far to get away. I think of it as a disnification. Too many people have no real experience with nature anymore, and think they're Cinderella. A dying fox isn't something you should even touch, because you may just get the reason it's dying on your skin and share it around. When we were kids, my friend and I saw a dying squirrel on the side of the road. While we were getting closer to see if there was anything we could do for it, someone came out of the house that it was near and informed us that it had been dead for a while and the only reason it was moving was because it was filled with maggots. Every saved this starving animal the video is suspect. I dated a guy that very early on asked me to share my location. I declined and he went on and on about how shady I must be and he just wanted to protect me. I was so confused and blocked him. It seemed very creepy and obsessive. Just wanted to protect you. Oh my God. If I'm declining something like this and a guy tells me he needs to do it for my protection, I'm fucking running. That's a slippery slope to telling me I cannot leave the house or have friends for my protection. Good on you for leaving. Dodged a bullet there. My daughter would be on video chat with her BF 24/7. They weren't talking to each other, they just had the video chat going, even while they slept. One time our daughter came into the living room while my wife and I were having a conversation and of course she had the video chat going and she told us to be quiet while she was in there because her BF was sleeping and then showed us the feed of him sleeping and she was just watching him. Insanity. She couldn't figure out how to mute herself? I was just about to say, what, are you a moron? It's literally a giant button right there on your screen. That's the least of her worries. My college roommate freshman year had a boyfriend back home that she would FaceTime constantly. If she EAS in the dorm, they were video chatting. It was super uncomfortable since we shared a small room, my bed was almost always in frame and I felt like I had no privacy. There was always some random guy in California watching me. It led to me doing pretty much anything I could to avoid being in my room. I slept on my friends' couches or floors pretty often and ended up moving into my boyfriend's dorm room after dating like a week during my second semester. Luckily, that worked out and we're still together years after grad, but I was so desperate to GTFO of my dorm that I was happy to live with someone who was almost a stranger. Same situation with me. My bed was facing my roommates, didn't have bunk beds, and she would constantly be on Skype with her BF who lived one state over. It made me so uncomfortable because she'd keep the video running all night while they both slept. And yet she thought I was weird for going home on weekends because I didn't want to be around that. I knew a girl like that. They would be on Skype all day and all night. It was really weird. Imagine walking into a room where people are gathered and insisting they be quiet now that you've arrived. Teenagers. I don't miss those years. Insisting they be quiet now that you've arrived. For the benefit of someone who isn't even there. Especially when you can literally just mute your mic. I do Uber and had a passenger that was in this situation one time. We sat not talking for several minutes and then I heard a voice coming from a speakerphone calling me rude for not turning down the music while they were on a phone call. No words were spoken before then. My cousin was doing that with his girlfriend too. Even during class in college. She would complain if he would be talking to any girl. Not like he's completely innocent when he would tell her to not wear short skirts or shorts. It felt obtrusive and disrespectful honestly when you have to mind that somebody is listening or seeing you across the screen. When they always joke about things that actually hurt you. But it's true, it's no big deal. You're overreacting, you're always like this. You can't take a joke. I feel like I'm always walking on eggshells around you. I never know when you're going to get irrationally upset random stuff. Make it make sense, Dad. That doesn't even seem sweet though. It's just all red flag. Obsessive boy moms that wear t-shirts that say, "Understand that I can make you go away," and other gems. I have a son. Seeing other moms wear stuff like that freaks me out. Then again, my whole identity doesn't revolve around being a mom. And it shouldn't. That's a healthy attitude. There should always be more to a person than being a parent. Moms like this are usually horribly mother-in-laws. My husband's mom is like this. She is in fact a horrible MIL. And horrible mothers. 'Cause that kind of relationship with their child tends to be self-serving. They usually want their kids to be dependent on them forever, and the idea of parenting is that you raise an independent person. My ex MIL was sweet to me while I was married to her son, but the way she doted on him his whole life made him a shitty partner. The sons of these mothers have a higher than average chance of not being a very good husband either. So they're a match made in heaven. I think there might be some cause and effect going on there. It's called emotional incest. If I see that shit, I'll willingly go away. Ick. I'll also hate the rules for dating my daughter, t-shirts that dads wear. Equally disgusting, infantilizing, and condescending. Not to mention controlling and creepy. What does that shirt even mean? It's like a mom telling a future girlfriend, "I'm here forever and I decide what's best for him." Creepy. It's the mom equivalent of the dad not wanting his daughter to have a boyfriend, so the stereotype is like he always wants to meet the boyfriend before he takes the daughter out, but like turns it into trying to intimidate a teenager. It's that but for moms if it goes that far. I would take the shirt in a heartbeat because it's a clear red flag. I had my ex MIL say this verbatim to my face, a few months after the wedding, because her son had argued with her and she thought I encouraged that behavior. A warning would have been so nice since she was the biggest problem in the marriage. Forcing kids to hug relatives that are making the kids uncomfortable. I used to point that out all the time when my nieces and nephews were little. They all looked at me like I was the asshole. Yeah. Used to hate having to show physical affection when I didn't want to as a kid. Made sure that when it comes to my little cousins now, if I ask for a hug I always accept no as an answer the first time with a smile. Yep. And some kids are more affectionate with family. It's up to the kid. That's one of my mottos. I take no for an answer regardless of the situation. Always hated when people tried talking me into drinking after I said no, that I don't drink. I swear this is why I actually like my aunt now as an adult. She wanted me to hug her. So bad. My mom would try to force me and she'd stand up for me saying, "No, I want Drac to want to." She's the only one of my aunts I'm in regular contact with as an adult. Inspiring stories of kids having lemonade stands to pay for mom's cancer treatment. That kid should never have to worry about paying for medical stuff. As someone who's not from America, it's really hard for me to watch all these touching ways people have raised money for their loved ones' medical care. You shouldn't have to do that. When someone says, "You're the only person I can talk to," very early on, it seems like a sweet compliment, but it often signals emotional dependency and puts unfair pressure on you. Aww. Man, this is an underrated answer and a very good one. It can reel you in and make you feel special. And next thing you know that person is so dependent on you emotionally. Proposals/preg announcements at weddings. It should be legally acceptable for the bride and groom to throw their shoes at anyone who pulls this attention whore nonsense. Love bombing. Love bombing all the way. I had never experienced this until I was in my 40s, so was sucked in hard. The savage turnaround of a narcissist is brutal. I can't imagine what it would be like for someone younger, with less personal experience, or someone with low self-worth. Reddest of the red flags 100%, except for socks with slides. That shit is red as hell. I had this after getting out of a long-term marriage/relationship of close to 20 years. Went from being flattered someone was paying so much attention to me to ridiculous expectations and not answering every text quickly and thoughtfully to her expectations. Ignored so many red flags as it got more possessive, outlandish, and worse. Never again. I can safely say, after having experienced it as a 20-year-old who had never felt loved before, that it broke me beyond repair. My current girlfriend shows me all the love in the world, and it all just passes through me. I've opened up about it to her, along with a long line of professionals. I'm still dead inside. It's a very sneaky hell. Children forcibly kissing or cuddling other children they've just met. It looks cute and pure-hearted, but parents should teach their kids early on. It can be overwhelming for others. My cousin is super young, and when my aunt and I dropped him off, we overheard a teacher saying, "No, no, no, kisses are for mommy and daddy only. We don't kiss people who aren't mommy or dad, okay?" The kid cried because they couldn't kiss the teacher, which probably hurt the kid's feelings in the moment, but that is an awesome as hell answer. Even with parents, we offer hugs to our kids all the time, partly because we like hugging them when they say yes, partly because it gives us a chance to reinforce, "That's okay. You get to decide who you hug," when they say no. Win-win, as far as I'm concerned. We try so hard with this one. My son loves everyone, everything, all the time. He's hugged benches that he passed that looked lonely. And we always intercept and pry him off of teachers and my nephew's girlfriend and whoever else. We repeat and enforce. You ask for permission before you hug, and kisses are only for family, and only when they want them. The problem is people are like, "Oh, he's so cute, it's okay." Right. So if he were the Phantom of the Opera, it'd be a problem for you then? That's not what the issue is. We're coming out of it, I think. And the message is sinking in. Very lush and rich compensation after they messed up in a relationship, every time without actually listening to your partner's issues. I have several friends whose partners are massive red flags and always make the same mistakes, and I always hear about the same thing almost every week. And then a day later, everything is okay, we can make it work because he took me on a nice and fancy date. It's constant. I'm so tired of hearing it. "Oh, he spoils me." Babe, that's called love bombing because you showed signs of leaving. It's manipulation. Overstepping your personal boundaries out of a concern or just wanting to help. When the pedestal becomes a cage, you'll understand why they built it so high. Wow, I have never heard this before. It makes perfect sense after what I just went through with an ex. Public proposals. I've heard stories of women who felt they couldn't say no because everyone was watching. Sounds like coercion to me. I was always under the impression that the surprise is when/where the proposal happens, and the actual "are we both ready to get engaged" talk is dealt with beforehand. That's how it should be. You should probably be pretty certain of the answer before you propose anyways. But the thing is, she's not going to say no. She would never say no, because of the implication. Well, dude, think about it. She's out in the middle of nowhere with some dude, and ring she barely knows. You know. She looks around and what does she see? Nothing but endless onlookers. There's nowhere for me to run. What am I gonna do? Say no? Women that act helpless so the man has to protect them. I know a 37-year-old woman who wakes her husband up in the middle of the night to take her to the bathroom. Same woman screams like a lunatic when she sees a bug of any description and will continue screaming until it's gone. If you don't want to babysit someone for the rest of their life, don't fall for that "resume me I'm helpless" of bullshit. This is totally catnip for some men though. I thought about faking it when I was younger, but eventually decided, what's the prize here? Exactly? Recording yourself giving homeless people food or money. Someone says they are a person of God, then they are given a free pass. I grew up in the church and found that many religious people are vile and wicked. When I was in high school, my music teacher raped a 15-year-old girl and a 16-year-old girl. At his trial, the courtroom was filled with supporters from his church, asking the judge to be lenient. Made me lose respect for organized religion basically overnight. I forget where, but Paul in one of his letters literally tells them to hand the wrongdoer over to the authorities for judgment. It's definitely been the case more often than not that people who loudly profess their Christianity use it as a blanket pass to conduct themselves however they wish, which is often in a most unsavory fashion. It's absolutely a red flag for me. It's not Christian-like to smile at your neighbor to her face and then call her a bitch and a slut behind her back, actual thing my Christian aunt has been doing. When someone always agrees with you and never disagrees, it feels comforting at first, like peace. But over time, you realize that silence and constant approval aren't love or respect. They're avoidance. Real care means honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. The sweetest words can sometimes hide the deepest distance, jealousy or possessiveness. No, it does not prove how much you love me that you are unhappy that I got a text from a male coworker when he was just asking me about a meeting in the morning. Ignoring your wishes to be more gentlemanly. If I say I don't want you to pay for my dinner, don't ignore my preferences and insist. Just let me pay. As a woman, it's hard to accept some generosities when you are still getting to know somebody. There is always that fear in the back of my head that they expect something in return. I went on a date with a guy when I was 18. I wanted to split the bill, but he wouldn't accept that and insisted on it no matter how many times I said I was uncomfortable with that. Then he tried to coerce me into sex. He treated the whole thing like a transaction. He pressured me into taking my top off, even though I kept saying no and that I had to go and meet my friend. A lie. I just wanted to get the hell out of there. Eventually, I insisted and fled from his place. It was over 15 years ago now, and the memory of it still deeply upsets me. It wasn't the first time or the last time I was treated like an object instead of a person. That day, I learned that any guy who doesn't respect your first no, even to small things, won't respect the bigger no either. Unfortunately, I have experienced the test where the person offers to split it and I take them up on it and it becomes immediately clear that was not a sincere offer. I guess the good part is it immediately allows me to weed out those who play dumb games. The last part of your comment is the most important. If someone is going to test you like that instead of just communicating with you, they're probably really immature and it's probably better they just show you that early and you can move on. You know what's a sneaky red flag that totally masquerades as sweet? When someone says stuff like, I just care about you so much. That's why I need to know where you are all the time. Eyes like, okay, cute in theory. Sounds protective, right? But if you're not careful, it turns into controlling real quick. That doesn't sound sweet to me. I always think, how do you think I made it this far without you? Yeah. That's fucked up. Saying, can you text me when you get home from their house and event, etc., is fine. Saying you want to track all their movements is a problem. Most abuse is justified as just caring about you. Even violent physical abuse. As someone who has to work with manipulative people all the time, lots of compliments pique my radar. Moms in love with and want to marry their sons. There's a line between doting and being a creep. Daddy dates and rules to date my daughter. T-shirts and chastity rings give that same vibe, too. Those guys obsessed with their moms. I mean, I like someone who are close to their moms, but you have to put limitation cause it's annoying. Forcefully kissing like in the K-drama, cause in real life Jay can bite you for doing that. The movies are just not being realistic. K-dramas have aggressive romantic interactions in general. Woman walks away and man grabs her by the wrist and forcefully pulls her back to him. Treating her like a rag doll because he isn't done with the conversation is not romantic. Children quickly becoming attached to brand new adults. Wanting to be held, kissed, hugged, having no boundaries with strangers. It usually indicates that they have attachment issues and don't have secure attachment with any adults or parental figures, and so cling on to any adult. I see people who work with kids think it's so cute when a kid comes to daycare or school or gets a babysitter and immediately wants to sit in their lap and be held and loved on by a stranger. It's not cute. It means something in that child's life has gone really wrong. And it's the adult's job to set appropriate boundaries and not allow the child to put them into that position. I met a woman who had 3 kids and had a difficult life. I brought her some supplies for a new baby and for Christmas that had been donated for her. Her oldest son, who was 3, immediately attached to me, would lean on me and sit next to me and hold my hand and get upset when I left and ask when I was coming back. It wasn't cute, it was really sad, because I knew it meant that he had been put into the position of not having his mom around to rely on. I think she had been in prison for part of his life. Someone, usually a man, pursuing someone for years even though the other person being pursued made it clear that they weren't interested and weren't going to change their mind. Love bombing. Saying to little kids stuff like, you're gonna break so many hearts, or you're such a ladies' man. That's weird. Let your kid figure that out. Persistence. It can feel flattering until it's not. Clothes for babies that say things like ladies' man or heartbreaker. Do people not realize they're sexualizing little children? Especially when there are so many funny baby clothes. My brother is a big hockey fan. And so when his first kid was born I got him a onesie that said, "I'm told I like hockey." When my first kid was born he got me a onesie that said, "I'm new here." If you want a funny thing for your baby to wear, it's trivial to find something actually funny that doesn't make you sound like Prince Andrew. I met a lesbian couple with a son who they got a shirt that said "Ladies Man" and a little graphic of a stick figure baby held by two adult stick figure women labeled Mom and Mom. That was cute. That was the only time that was cute. My husband's stepmom would send us shirts like that for our sons. They never got worn. Ever. Gives me the ick when people say my kids are flirting or have a boyfriend/girlfriend. I'm like they are little kids. Learning to exist. Shut up. I think the whole point is for it to be a joke because it couldn't possibly be true. So, people aren't sexualizing little children because the idea that it could be interpreted literally never crossed their minds. Basically, it hinges on the idea that sexualizing children is so horrible and absurd that the shirt can't possibly be serious. That being said, I kinda find those phrases gross in general, so I wouldn't put them on a shirt for anybody. When someone self-inserts themselves as a mentor figure in your life, romanticizing your high school sweetheart as the one that got away when you graduated 10 plus years ago. My mom still talks about him. Jealousy. It's not cute when they're acting jealous. It's a major red flag. This includes any type of relationship from family, friends, coworkers, and partners. I'm just very protective, control freak in shining armor. They trash talk all your friends and frame it as looking out for you. They're not weeding your garden, they're isolating you on a deserted island where they're the only one allowed to visit. Spending every spare minute together, have some time apart, miss each other, you'll survive. Codependency. It's wild how many red flags get a cute filter slapped on them. The boy mom thing and love bombing both feel like a performance that's more about ownership than actual affection. And seeing a stressed out animal passed off as a content is just the same energy applied to a different victim. You're not like other guys/girls. Putting you on a pedestal and putting everyone else down. You're so different from everyone else sounds flattering, but it's usually a sign they see people in extremes. Eventually you'll do something human and fall off that pedestal hard. My ex used to sit outside my yoga class, waiting to take me home. My teacher thought that was adorable. I later explained to her that he didn't trust me to go anywhere by myself. After I escaped, he was convicted of stalking and domestic abuse. Exotic pets on TikTok. Posting images/video of your kids online. Stay with me. When they insist on paying and buying everything. Phones, clothes, food, bills, transport, etc. People think it's sweet, but I genuinely don't trust it. That's too much power to be used. My independence is everything. Don't insist, especially when we just met. Take what I allow you to pay for and be happy with it. So, yes, I go Dutch on multiple dates, as well. This one also goes into the opposite direction. In a relationship I always handled the who pays part after my tummy feeling. I pay this time. You pay next time, I bring the groceries. You get the drinks. You came with the car to me, thus breakfast is on me. I tend to be the one who pays more and more often, but you could say that's the tax for not having to think about it. Then I got a girlfriend who always wanted to split the bill, and once she even said she had to buy the tickets and snacks because she was €22 behind. I was just baffled, and that felt really repulsive. Independence. Quality, pride. Yeah, I get it. Might be cute in the beginning to show where you stand, but after a few months of dating, doing that accounting feels more like being held at distance. I am a partner, no customer. Grown women who talk with a baby voice. Yes, it's not cute, it's not sexy. It just makes you look like a grown-up who's mentally stunted. Yeah. It's disturbing. MNGL. Constant texting. My favorite Katie Lang song. I'm unemployed, but I don't text people every day. I don't get why some people expect everyone to text them 24/7. It's exhausting, and there's so many things you can do instead. Ignoring boundaries under the guise of doing something nice. When I was in college, I told my BF, who was like 15 years older, a whole other red flag, that I had a big exam to study for and couldn't hang out. He showed up unannounced at my apartment with takeout for dinner. Seemed sweet, right? Well, then it became, since I'm already here, why don't I just stay the night? Again, at the time it seemed like he just wanted to see me and spend time together, but it ended up being the tip of the iceberg of ignoring my needs for his wants. Well, in Switzerland, the red flag is actually a big plus. Ba dum tssssss. Cake in someone's face, most commonly a birthday party or a wedding. People who label themselves as sassy or alpha. One is often a bitch in disguise, the other an asshole. My in-laws have this habit of asking all the children in the family weird questions like, who is your favorite uncle, aunt and cousin / etc. It always strikes me as a strange way to introduce competitiveness in an area of life that really doesn't need any. Like, it's one thing if my niece runs up to me and says, "You're my favorite uncle," without any prompting, in large part because she halfway doesn't know what she's saying. But when the adults in the family are egging the kids on to choose, it just feels unnecessarily toxic. This one may be a slight bit unpopular or less known, but trauma dumping. I've been guilty of this myself in the past. I'm ND, neurodivergent, and I did it because I had an extremely anxious attachment style toward anyone who showed me any modicum of kindness. To some, it can come off as a sweet, or endearing, or that the person doing the trauma dumping trusts you really fast. In all reality, though, it's more likely either the person struggles with maintaining a secure attachment style with someone, or it's a manipulation tactic used to create a super quick bond. This is common in people, at least, that I've personally noticed, with some type of narcissistic traits. Not full-on NPD, but the traits normally associated with it. I think there is sharing vulnerabilities, and actually trauma dump. Telling someone you have certain trauma you are dealing with is fine, but dropping a 500-word essay on how your mom was abusive and how it made you suicidal at 2 a.m. is not. I think of trauma like energy. It can't be created or destroyed necessarily, but it can be properly handled and stored. Throwing it at the first person that has no choice but to listen isn't properly dealing with the trauma. You need to take that shit to a therapist or whatever, someone who's qualified and consenting. Like if I went around pitching baseballs at people BC, I couldn't help it. That would not be good. You've got to find a catcher, someone who can absorb that energy and turn it into something positive. If this makes any sense. I'm very tired, and trauma bonding does not equal friendship level. Seems like some people can't make friends unless they're trauma bonding. It's unhealthy AF. ODHD here, so I can relate. It's so hard when it's unintentional and uncontrollable too. I often get caught in a trauma dumping trap because I realize I said something strange that takes a person by surprise. And it needs a lot of context. But some ND people can also really struggle with lying or being vague instead of giving an honest answer. Then I end up giving way too much detail trying to explain my fucked up life experiences and feeling even more awkward. I'm getting better though. On the phone today, when a real estate agent asked me why I had to hold off on applying for a home loan, I said, "It's complicated," and just left it at that. Someone that agrees with you too much and/or copies you. This can be seen by some to be sweet, because they like you so much, and as a harmless, because it's not actively harmful. In reality, they either feel deeply insecure, are ignoring something about themselves, or are afraid to be truthful. I've seen and experienced different variations of this, for different reasons. But this was a prevalent red flag. Putting puppies in a box to surprise kids as a gift. Nup, really unkind to the baby animal. Do you really want to teach your kids to be? Being a mother hen. That is boomer speak for bully. No being able to be alone, or to do any outside activities alone. I can definitely confirm this. It might seem cool to some because the person spends a lot of time with you and you feel needed, until you see the underlying issues of codependency and the lack of self-reflection from never being alone, etc. Or you see they'll just talk to anyone when you're away. Didn't end well for me. Acting overly obsessive over anyone. As someone who has had bouts of being obsessive over people, it really pisses me off to see people romanticize it. It's not pretty. It isn't romantic, it's actually awful. From my experience, you feel like shit because that person hasn't read your text or hasn't responded in the way you want them to. Them talking to other people makes you want to rip your own skin off. You have to learn how to manage it. And I'm glad that I have, but it's really hard. And I hate when someone romanticizes that shit. No, it's not a cute and fun time. It's soul-crushing, and it takes time to heal after it. Love bombing and romantic obsession. Possessive. Jealousy. Some people think it's cute at first, until they realize it's a crazy possessive person they're dealing with. One red flag that people often ignore because it looks so sweet is when someone is overly attentive or affectionate early on in a relationship. While it might feel flattering or romantic, it can actually be a sign of possessiveness, control, or even obsession. But what if I'm just a cuddle bug?